Coming to your Hong Kong to New York trip, Carl, traveling from Hong Kong to New York is definitely not an easy job, physically, financially, and even post Hong Kong to New York, you've been traveling across frequently, right? So, how do you go about planning your trip, managing finances, budgeting, figuring out what to see, what not to see? How do you go about it?
So when I plan a trip, uh, if I want to go to a place and I have no idea what the main things are to see there, the first thing I'll do is look at what the tour companies are doing. It could be any kind of tour company like Intrepid, who I do work with now, G Adventures, who I've done trips with, or any tour company. Just they're all doing similar routes, just different styles, but they've already figured out the best spots. So I kind of use that as a starting point, and then just basically steal their ideas, and then you can start researching. Okay, well, how much does a hostel cost to stay at? How much does the bus from there to there? And you can start building up a budget. There'll be blogs. There's so many travel blogs out there now with like budget breakdowns for countries. So I sort of come up with an idea for the budget of the trip, but because I've been self-employed since the start of 2015, and so whenever I'm away on the trip, obviously I'm not earning money, but I still have to pay my rent, so now my mortgage, because I own a place. You still have to pay the bills, so I include that in the sort of finance of the trip. It's sort of each quarter when I do my financial plan, is like, right, make sure you've earned enough to pay all the bills for the 3 months coming up, and then you need to earn this much to do that trip and this much to do that, and then you sort of each day I have this spreadsheet, and each day I sort of get a day's work in, put it in, and you can just see percentage wise how you're getting closer to be able to afford the trip. So it's just being careful with your money like that. That's the way I do it. If you're trying to save for a trip, it's easier now because I earn better money, so it's easier for me to afford to do these trips. But when I was was saving for the Hong Kong to New York trip, people always ask for tips for saving money, and the two main tips I have is, one is save before you spend. So if you're on a full-time job and you get your paycheck, put like a third of that or whatever you can imagine of that away in a different account, and don't touch it. Because if you think, oh, I'll just save what I've got left at the end of the month, you'll have nothing left at the end of the month. You'll get to like the 29th of the month and you'll be in the pub going, oh, I'll buy some drinks, and you'll forget about your saving for a trip. So do that, but also just find little ways in your life that you can cut out expenses. So for the 2 years when I was working full time, saving up for Hong Kong to New York, I would get the train into town, into central London, and then I could get the tube to where I worked, the underground, but instead I walked for half an hour and half an hour back, which isn't that bad. But that saves you £5 a day, which is £25 a week. Multiply that over 2 years, you've got 2 or 3 grand extra saved up just by doing that, and it's little things like that. I make like a packed lunch from home rather than buying lunch in town, and suddenly that costs a fifth of the cost. And all these little things which don't seem that big, but if you add them up over 2 years worth of savings, suddenly you've got quite a bit extra money.
Wow, so you've now become a sort of a financial strategist,
I used to be. Fortunately now it's sort of I earn better money as a freelancer, so I don't have to. I can afford to get the tube now if I want to. But yeah, it all comes from my mum. Actually, she's the most organized person in the world, and she used to, plan our trips we did growing up. And I mean, I did this video during lockdown about sort of history of my travels growing up with a scratch map, and I asked her what was the first trip I did abroad, and I was down visiting her, and she went, "Oh, you went to Germany when you were 1 year old." And she went through her cabinets and found like, "Oh, here's the budget breakdown on a piece of paper from 1984. I was like, "That's organized." So that's where I get it from.